Hello again, YouTube. Today we'll be making this In the Hoop cassette tape bag. When you download the file, you'll get step-by-step pictured instructions. With the first thing you need to do is cut out your fabric for your bag. You'll be given specific measurements and the directions. This will be my outside, this will be my lining, and this will be the applique for the top of our cassette tape. You're also going to need ribbon if you want to put a handle on it, your thread. You'll also need a zipper that is at least 7 or 9 inches or longer. The 7 inches get a little too close with the metal pieces coming around your machine. As always, no metal teeth and no big plastic chunky teeth. Your machine cannot sew through it. One thing that is different about this bag than our normal bags is you're not going to be using batting for this bag. This bag, if you use batting, I don't know if you can see, when you lay it down, it makes it a little bit hard to see the outline of it, especially like around the top and stuff. So instead of using batting, we're going to use another piece of stabilizer. I'll talk about the stabilizer more in a minute. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do is hoop. This is a 5x7 design. Is hoop your cutaway stabilizer in your hoop. This is the stabilizer that I'm using. We're using medium cutaway stabilizer. This is the brand I'm using mostly because it's what is at my local craft store. And it seems to work well. You can use whatever brand you really want to. It just needs to be a little bit more denser of a cutaway and a little bit more stiff. Nothing that's too floppy, because we're going to put quite a few stitches in it, quite a few close stitches, so it needs to be able to support it. You're also going to want to cut an extra piece for your back. This is in the directions, but instead of putting batting between the back layers, we're going to put the stabilizer in there as well. And I know some of you are going, can't I use poly mesh? It's cutaway. Nope. What happens, I don't know if you can see, it leaves gaps in your stitching because it's not dense enough to deal with all the stitches. So stick with the cutaway, and we're going to go over to the machine. Alright, so in an effort to speed up my tapes, I'm not going to show quite as much of the stitching as I normally do. We're just going to hit the highlights. So the first stitch in the machine is the placement stitch. So this is where my bag will sit, and this is where my zipper will. So you're going to place your zipper closed. I just cut some of mine off. Closed, teeth facing up. And you're going to put it in between your lines. Now, you're going to want to make sure, because of the applique on the bag, that you spend some extra time to make sure that it's pretty straight. Because you'll see on one of my little tester bags, see it's a little bit off, so you can kind of see it. So you're going to want to make sure to spend an extra couple minutes to make sure that it's really centered. You're also going to take some tape and tape it into place. It's going to go back into the machine, and the machine will put a stitch on either side of your zipper to hold it into place. Alright, so we have just stitched our zipper into place. You're going to want to use a thread that matches your zipper and your fabric. Just in case you manage to see any of your stitches, it won't be quite so noticeable. You're going to flip it over to the back, and we are going to take our lining fabric and place it right side down, if you have a right side. It needs to cover the set of stitches that it is just done. You are going to pin it into place from the front. You need to be careful not to pin anywhere that your machine is going to stitch, because your machine cannot stitch through metal. You also need to make sure that the head of any pin is not too close to where your machine is going to stitch or where your machine is going to move. Your foot can hit it and throw it off of whack. So there they are. And see, our machine will stitch right here, and they won't be in the way. You're also going to want to take your lining fabric and pin it up into place too. We are now going to take our lining fabric. We are going to place it right side down if you have a right side. We need to cover this stitch the machine just did. And this one we're just going to tape into place. since it's basically going to be into place. And we'll pin it too. I'm using low-tack painter's tape. You're going to want to use some kind of low-tack tape because we're going to take it off in a minute. You don't want to tear your stabilizer. Also, with the low-tack tape, if your machine accidentally stitches it, it's fine. I need a high-tack tape. Your machine will not appreciate that. But don't go crazy and let your machine just stitch everything. Don't just slap it all on here. But if it catches, it'll be fine. Your machine is going to stitch right along here again to hold our two pieces of fabric together. Alright, so our machine has stitched right along the seam. You're going to remove your tape and your one pin. This is spray basting spray. I know some people love it, some people hate it. I personally love it. Make sure you get one that is sewable, that it will not mess up your machine if it sews it. What you're going to do is we're going to lightly spray here, and you're going to fold this fabric down. And you're going to want to make sure it gets down with no creases and gets pretty solidly into place. Alright, so now what we're going to do is you're going to pin it into place. If you do not pin it into place, you will have puckers like you cannot even imagine. Now down here on the bottom, you're going to want to make sure you have pins with very little heads on them, because your machine's going to stitch pretty close to the side. So you're going to want to make sure that any head's very small. I'm going to finish pinning and I'll be right back. Alright, so I have pinned, as you can see, all the way around the sides. Like I said, I used the ones with the little heads down here and pinned along the sides. I moved the ones that were holding our lining fabric up above our zipper. Also, you can see on the back, this is where our machine's not going to stitch outside of this line, to give you some kind of a guide. So it's going to go back into the machine and it's going to applique. We're going to applique this part on first. Then it's going to stitch our white part, and then it's going to stitch our satin stitch. To save time, I'm not going to show you any of that. I'm just going to let the machine do all of that. Some of our other videos show it stitching, but it's just standard stitching at this point. So when we come back, we'll have all of this bottom part stitched. Make sure that when you're doing this that your lining fabric stays up or it won't be good. So when you come back, this will all be done. Alright, so it has come out of the machine. This is all of our stitching that is done for the bottom half of our bag. Committed pretty hardcore to the neon theme. Wow. Alright. So what we're going to do now is take out all of the pins. I'm going to pause the video and I'll be right back when they're all out. Alright, so I just removed all of our pins. What you're going to do now is flip over to the back of your bag. And I'm going to take some spray basting spray real quick. And flatten this out, just to make it look a little bit neater. We're going to go back to the front and we're going to pin our front and our lining together again. I'm going to do that and be right back. Alright, so I've pinned. This is what my back looks like, and I've just pinned it. Basically, we're just keeping these out of the way as we stitch our top part of our bag. So we're going to do the same thing again, now with our top fabric. So I'm going to take, my lining fabric, place it right side down, and place it over these stitches. I'm going to pin it into place from the front. and make sure it's not going to get anywhere the machine's going to stitch. I'm also going to pin down here to hold it down so it doesn't get in the way. And then I'm going to take our outside fabric and place it right side down over this dark stitch it did a little while ago. And we're just going to tape this into place. And also make sure that your pins from the other side are not going to get in the way of your machine's stitching. Your machine cannot stitch metal. So you're going to tape these down. Your machine's going to come right along here and stitch again to hold your two pieces of fabric in place. Okay, so we stitched here. Remove my tape. Take my spray basting spray and light the spray. We're going to flip this up, press it into place, and I'm going to cut that, and then I'm going to pin all of this into place. So when I come back, we'll have that pinned. Okay, so I have pinned this. You don't have to use the really little pins up here. You're not going to stitch as close, but it's a good idea. So I've pinned all of this, and I moved the pins holding our lining down a little bit, and our lining is still pinned down. So what's going to happen is it's going to go in the machine. It is going to applique our yellow piece again and then stitch all the way out our green piece again. So when we come back, this will all be stitched. So we have stitched all of this. This font right here and the mixtape font, they are not included in the file. I'll do another video later on to show you how to insert these into the file, but this will be left blank. What we're going to do now is take out all of the pins up top, and we're going to flip our lining up. So I will remove the pins and be right back. All right, so I've removed all of the pins holding this in, and we're going to flip over to the back. We're going to spray a little bit, flip this one up, come back to the front, and we are going to pin it down. And I will be right back and pin. Alright, so what I have done is I've flipped our lining up and pinned it. And I've made sure to pin really, really close to my hoop. I also removed any extra pins down here and pinned really, really close to my hoop. This is what the back of ours look like. This is where our zipper is going to be. Now what we're going to do, if you want to put a handle of some kind on here, now's your time to do it. What we're going to do, you can make a handle, you can add hardware, you can make straps, you can do whatever it is your whole heart desires. I am practical, so we are using some ribbon. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take your loop part is going to go in towards your bag, and your little strap part's going out here, and you're just going to tape it into place. If you're using a heavier, if you're using a bigger strap, you might want to pin it into place, but the tape should be enough to hold this into place. You're now going to open your zipper more than halfway. Your machine's going to want to pull back to center, so this guy needs to be relatively out of the way. But remember, it's going to stitch along this line, so you don't want it too far over here, and you also don't want this, because it's going to bulge a little bit. You don't want it too far over here so it gets in the way when your machine stitches again. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our outside fabric and place it face down, or right side down. And then you are going to put your extra piece of stabilizer. Instead of using batting like we normally would, we're just going to use stabilizer, and this is what's going to keep our bag rigid. you're just going to place it down on top. We are going to pin all of this together now, and I'll be back to show you that in a minute. All right, so one more time. This is my outside fabric, right side down. This is my stabilizer instead of batting. It doesn't have a right or wrong side. And now I've pinned all of my layers together. It's going to go back into the machine and stitch all the way around this. This is what the back of my bag looks like. Also making sure you have pinned as close to your hoop as you can. Also, when this is going to the machine, you need to babysit it and make sure that it's not getting too close to anything. Your machine cannot sew through metal. So we're going to go back to the machine. It's going to stitch all the way around. Okay, so what we're going to do now, see it's stitched all the way around. We're going to remove these pins. Those pins were just holding our outside fabric and our stabilizer to our bag. So now what we're going to do is flip over to the back. You need to cut right here so that you can unzip your bag. Don't laugh. My regular applique scissors are in the shop and they are taking forever to sharpen them. Not that I'm hostile. So I'm having to deal with imposter applique scissors I don't like. Anyway, so you're gonna have to cut along that zipper just to remove the stabilizer so that you can unzip your bag. And while you're doing this, make sure that you don't cut any of your fabric or your zipper. Here we go. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take this is our lining fabric. If you had a right and a wrong side, it would be right side down. I'm just going to tape it into place. They're low tack tape. The big thing to make sure of is when it goes back into the machine, that nothing is hanging down, or else you'll have a hole in your bag. Now, when it stitches, it is going to leave a hole so that we can flip our bag through. So it's going to stitch all the way around and then leave a hole at the bottom of our bag so we can flip it. Okay, so it's stitched all the way around and it's left an opening right here. What we're going to do now is remove it from our hoop. We probably also still have some pins stuck in here and some tape. You are going to remove it from the hoop and remove all of your pins too. We don't want them. All right. So now what you're going to do is you're going to cut all the way around, and we're going to leave a little extra right here to make it easier when we got to turn it in. Okay, so I have cut, leaving a little extra. Do not cut any of your stitches or else you will have a hole in your bag. I've left some extra right here. I did cut away the stabilizer in it because then you just, it's too much in one spot. So what I'm going to do now is flip my bag through that hole. And basically what this is doing is making our bag inside out. So we've got it all turned basically inside out. Now we have an opening at the bottom of our bag. And ideally, in a perfect world, you would hand sew it together. I think hand sewing is a form of torture. So it's called peel and stick, and basically it works on the principle of peel and stick tape. So what I do is I leave it outside first. Stick it on. Now squish everything inside your bag like you want it to go. Okay, so that's all lined up like we want it to go. So what you're going to do, see it's clear? And I peeled part of it back. You're basically going to peel and squish together. You only have really one shot with this. It's very, very sticky stuff. You can also use any number of fusible products out there. This is just the one I like. And then there we go. And we have it all done. So now I'm going to open our zipper and flip our bag right side out. When you are flipping the first time, you're going to want to make sure that you spend extra time to get all the corners correct. That's our tape for our handle here. So those are our In the Hoop cassette tape bags. One other little tidbit, when you pick your fabric for your outside of your bag, make sure that you pick a good quality fabric. If you pick those $1.99 a yard broadcloth, it's so open weaved, it doesn't turn out very well. It puckers. So I hope this helps you make them. If you have any comments, please let me know. Like and subscribe and all that stuff, and we will see you next time.